Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is a Freeform Friday, or should we call it Flourishing Fridays? I don't know. I love that concept. It's a good day. For those of you who got here early on video on YouTube or X or Facebook, I always play one of my son's songs at the beginning, and that one in particular is what I play on Fridays. Randy says, good song. Don't recall that one. It's the first one on the album, if you've listened to the album. And just now, as I was listening to it with you, I thought, what a day to be alive. My son and I recorded that song, along with the whole album, in my basement. Now, when I was a kid, I recorded a lot of songs in my bedroom with a cassette recorder. And in order to get a couple of tracks, I would have two cassette recorders, and I would play a part in one and then play that back and then record the sound coming out of that one with what I was playing live. And if you can imagine what that's like, if I made the slightest mistake, I had to start over, right? There's no editing in that scenario. And then I got, hit the big time. I was able to afford a 4-track recorder, still on cassette. So the quality was, fair. And when I was a kid, I didn't have the money to buy. Well, it wasn't just the money. We didn't have the keyboards that could recreate just, all the sounds. Anyway, I'm listening to that song and thinking how far we've come in my lifetime and the joy of recording, of writing and recording those songs with my son, and then being able to produce something that sounds really great. Every time I listen on these mornings, that's just first of all, I think these are great songs written by my son. So the songs themselves are engaging, but the sound quality, you wouldn't know, at least most people wouldn't know, that it wasn't professionally produced, somewhat. What a day. What a day. So it's good to be here with you all. Andrew says the email summary from yesterday was good. Thank you for that feedback. Good to have Yoda Doug back. Edgar is doing his morning cardio so he can look like me. Yeah, well, keep running. Actually, it's, as you know, it's down in the kitchen, right? Sana says, I ordered the Shackleton book. It just arrived. Excited to start it. My daughter, the one who's getting married next month, which in just a few days is going to be this month. That's crazy to think about. She is just about done with it. She came over the other day. We were talking about it. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, Sana, when you get done. All right, well, we have some more flourishing things to talk about. But first, we need to touch base on our prayer requests. Are you praying? Are you praying regularly? Those of you who committed, those of you who said, yes, I will join you in praying. Are you praying for the big three? See, this is what we do with praying. If we're not careful, we have sort of our emotional response. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And then it just kind of fades off, or we just go through the motions. And one of the reasons that I picked these three was because if you pay attention to the news at all, there should be some things happening in the news that we can gauge how the Lord is answering. So I hope you're praying and keep praying earnestly. I think these things are important. So there has been some movement in each of these three areas this week that I've seen, and maybe you've seen more. This, in terms of the fraud in Minnesota, and if you remember, I'm focusing prayers there because it seems like, from what I can gather, there is significant fraud and significant evidence of fraud, thanks to Nick Shirley, the young man with the phone going into the daycare centers and exposing how there's no daycare there at all, and yet they're getting lots of money from the government. And I believe, at least I think, it's likely that if real fraud is exposed there, that might be a doorway to many other states, cities, where there's lots of fraud. So the movement that I saw this week was in the State of the Union. No, it wasn't. Wasn't that? Was it? Maybe it was a different time. Anyway, President Trump announced that Vice President J.D. Vance is now taking leadership of the war against fraud, or I forget how they phrase it exactly. And then he came out and did a little press conference and said they are not going to reimburse Minnesota for the Medicaid expenses because they have uncovered that the people who were receiving the Medicaid from the government was not sending it on to those who needed it genuinely, but were pocketing it themselves. That sounds like movement to me. Like we have a noted leader whose job now, his focus is going to be on the fraud. I think I mentioned the Howard Lutnick interview with the All In podcast earlier this year that I heard, where he said, last year the big focus was on tariffs. This year it's on fraud, and he thinks there's I think he said $1 trillion of fraud that they think they can find. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering, but it was a lot. It was a big number. So that's exciting in terms of getting somewhere with this. So be praying for the Lord to expose that. Pray for Vice President Vance that he will have wisdom and courage and so on. Second thing was Iran, and apparently things are kind of heating up there. I have some connection with someone who would know a little something, and of course it's classified, but it sounds like, and he hasn't given me any classified information, that's not what I mean, but just in the discussion, and everything we hear in the public, it seems like there's movement in that direction with the talks breaking down and the firepower there and all that. So again, I don't know. I don't know. But it seems like there's something happening. So be praying for that, for the Iranian regime to be taken down. And then the third thing was, do you remember? Anybody? The voting integrity here in the U.S. And there's mounting pressure to get the SAVE Act passed in the Senate. And it seems like there's some feet dragging going on and so on, but there's a lot of pressure going on. So keep praying for those things. I think those are important. Just imagine if we were fairly sure that our elections were, mostly safe and secure and fair. I don't think there's any way to remove all fraud everywhere. I'm not asking for that, but the fraud that has led to what appears to be just obviously distorted turnouts or outcomes. Anyway, imagine if we were pretty confident that the people that we're voting for are the ones who get elected. Imagine if the fraud stealing money from our taxes was all exposed and shut down, and if the Iranian regime came down. Think about the implications of that. Someone says, thoughts on the Tucker Huckabee interview. You know what? I saw a little bit about that, but I haven't paid attention. Not a fan of Tucker. I'm not convinced he's as evil as some are describing him. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, no thoughts for you there. Anyway, just imagine if those three things, if the Lord were to answer those prayers the way we're asking them, significant improvement in lots of things. So keep praying. All right. So I want to talk some about flourishing here. And I had a conversation, and again, I have to be a little bit vague because I don't have permission, and it would be detrimental to my friend to go into detail. But I had a great conversation with this friend recently that led me to do a little more exploring. And, if you get your news from the places that everybody gets their news, social media, I get most of mine from X, wherever, unless you're very careful with X and use lists and set your algorithm, you're going to just be flooded with all the naysayers, all the negativity. And that's so often, as I've suggested, also, the Christian view. And for many, that's the theology, that the world's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And we can totally miss some great things that are happening. So I've told you, I think the Department of Education has been a massive fail, and I am very excited about the dismantling of that. I think that can only have good ramifications long term. I think so many of the evils of the U.S. are because the Marxists have penetrated the education system. And I think most universities, state-run universities, I don't know if they can be reformed. They might just need to be shut down. That sounds like I'm a pessimist. I think in that I'm a realist. However, there are still some really amazing things happening. There are some schools that are getting federal grants to do some amazing things. One area has to do with being able to grow crops with almost 50% less water. And this is without chemicals, without, I'm not a big fan of the chemicals that are used in the pesticides and all that. This is all, I don't know if the right word is organic, but, working with analyzing fertilizers and combinations of this and that. Now, just imagine if that kind of thing is achieved. Can you envision what that could do across the world? If we could grow crops for half the amount of water it currently takes. Just ponder that for a minute. Are we so removed from how we get our food that doesn't mean anything to us? Sorry, I just saw a flicker and I thought it was something. That's a big deal. And as I've dug into these kind of things, there is more of that kind of thing that could be happening if it weren't for the liberalism, Marxism, and bureaucracy of the universities and the government. There are actually good people who just care about solving problems, but there's just too much red tape and stuff getting in the way. Imagine, closely related to that is desalination. The technology exists, as I understand it right now, to turn salt water into fresh water. But between bureaucracy and governments getting in the way, it's not being done like it could be. Again, imagine in some of the poorest parts of the world, if we could grow crops with half the need of water and we could provide clean, fresh water relatively easily. What would that do for the world? Like aquaponics or more genetically suited to less water? I'm not sure what's aquaponics, Amy. I don't know that. Don't know that term. Well, again, I got to be careful here, not to give away proprietary info. I think it's more to do with the soil than it is genetically changed or modified, if I'm understanding your question. I'll leave it there for now. But my point is, there is research going on for these kinds of things, and imagine the drastic reduction in the cost of food worldwide if we didn't have governments doing all their thing. Growing in water with no soil, is that aquaponics? Interesting. Can you do that like with tomatoes and that kind of thing. Just normal crops. Interesting. And then the third thing is just better farming practices. I know RFK has talked about this, and others have talked about it, and some of you, know firsthand how this should work. But as I understand it, we've pretty much destroyed our soil between all the chemicals we put on it and not moving crops around, and I'm sure there's technical terms for all this, but our soil by and large is not good, but it could be good if we would either get back to or even develop better farming practices. And putting all this together, just imagine if more of our food was actually grown locally, like it used to be, but more so. I mean, I'm not the huge farms. The benefits of the huge farms is the supply has increased, exponentially. The downside is, at least one of them, from the farm to the shelf to your home, so often food has to be preserved, and that's where you start adding all the stuff. And again, I may be, don't holler at me for getting some of this wrong. I'm not an expert in any of this. I think I understand generally how this works. Whereas if we could enable local farmers to profit from raising food nearby, and then it's fresher and we don't need to add all that stuff, this kind of thing, more efficient because of less water required, developing better farming practices so it's good soil, and people want to buy that instead of buying stuff, in the middle of the grocery store. I don't know, that it's going to be great. Everybody in the world will have that potential to eat better, it seems to me. Amy says, our region in, is that Southern Texas, is about to catastrophically crash without desalination option. Really? What's causing the lack of water? Is it what's going on there with that? I hadn't heard anything about that. Sonda says mass production makes for plenty of cheap food, but it's very low quality generally. Exactly. Randy says aquaponics supposedly low nutrient. Huh. Well, again, some of you may know and do know way more about all this than I do. The one person that I was talking to knows at least this one element better than probably anybody on the planet. And there's some good stuff happening there. So just imagine better quality food, cheaper for everyone in the world. That's flourishing. We all need to eat, right? Closely related is, health and longevity. We continued to, I think, get more and more accurate information about nutrition and what to eat and what not to eat. Now, that's hard because a lot of people, especially if you're, been around a few decades, you grew up with the old food pyramid, being told that the old food pyramid is the healthiest diet, and now that has been completely disproven. And it's hard to switch. And it's hard to eat well for a lot of people. I think the information is available, though there's a lot of disinformation you have to fight through. But to understand what better quality food is and what we should be eating, it's there, but it's hard. I think I told you a couple years ago my wife did a Whole30. Well, she's doing it again. And we're all eating much, much better than we were, 5 years ago. But it's just easy to slip back into bad habits. And so she did. And she, just a couple days ago, her energy level shot through the roof. Woke up earlier than normal and just go, 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 go. And that's one of the net effects of Whole30. And it's just, and this is, I mean, we all do this if we're not careful. It seems obvious if eating the right food makes you healthier, you lose fat, you feel better, you have more energy, inflammation reduces, so your pains are less. And, she's mid-50s. All of that is true just because of diet. Why would you ever add things to your eating that reintroduce inflammation and fat and lethargy and sleep problems and so on? But we do, because we like food. And of course, the food in the middle of the grocery stores are designed to make you eat more and more and more of it and crave it and all of that. So some of this is a matter of self-discipline for all of us. When I stick to straight carnivore / keto, probably 10% of my diet is not carnivore, I feel great. And then if I start adding in stuff, if I have a celebration meal or two on a special day, then, I pay for it for a couple of days. And as long as I get back to it, then I have a couple of days of misery and get right back to it. Anyway, the information about nutrition and strength training, which I've talked about many times, so I won't belabor that, but, Edgar's doing his cardio and needs to be lifting weights and staying out of the kitchen. Cardio is good for our heart, but not for the kind of thing I'm talking about. But it's available, and as it becomes more and more part of the cultural norm to eat high quality foods, get rid of the seed oils, the dyes, and the government's working. The RFK is working toward that. And you hear more and more of these food companies saying we're going to stop, putting these natural flavors or these dyes or whatever. That's all heading in the right direction. If we get to a place where even the food you buy at a store, you don't have the local farm, but the stuff you get at the store is high quality, that's going to have an impact on longevity and health. That's a good thing. So many diseases are a result of our nutrition. So we can fix them. Imagine reducing so many of the diseases that we all know just because we're eating better and better quality of food. That's flourishing. That's great stuff. Amy says, no rain in the watershed and a significant increase in water consumption between population increases and business attracted here. Interesting. Yeah, we don't have much water here in Colorado either, and what we do have, we ship off to California. I talk about this sometimes. California, New York, Illinois, they get all the press, Minnesota lately, for their corrupt state governments, but I think Colorado's worse than all of them. I really do. Nutritionist information just like Cross to Crown. Good info available if willing to change views. Exactly. Terry says plants grow almost entirely from CO2 and sunlight. The soil has little to do with it. A few trace elements. My friend would maybe be interesting to get you. Do you have a background in this? Terry, is that be interesting to get you and my friend to have a discussion about that. Did hold 15 years ago, totally reset body. Yeah. Have you stuck with it? Have you gone back to it, or have you just stuck to basically good habits since then? I see, Amy. Yeah, makes sense. So Sana makes a comment here that I have thought of. She says, I'm convinced you weren't near as sick from your cold as others because of your diet. I think you're right. This is pure anecdotal, but I've been mostly carnivore. I think I've thrown out different numbers, but it's been this summer it'll be will that mean with the fourth year starting? I think it'll be starting the fourth year that I've been mostly carnivore, easily 90% of the time. And in that time, I've hardly gotten sick, And when I have, it seems like I've gotten what others had, and my experience was significantly less. Uh, what I had this week, yeah, I'm surrounded by people with nasty cough, influenza, sore throat, fever that lasts for weeks. And mine lasted 3 days. And I didn't get fever, haven't developed the cough. I had drainage and the Darth Vader voice. But apart from that, and I couldn't sleep because of the drainage. So I didn't feel great because of the lack of sleep. But it wasn't sick. You know what I mean? Like, you know how you feel when you're sick, you don't want to do anything. I think you're right, Sana. Again, it's, not, there's no control group here and blind studies, but anecdotally, there's mounting evidence, circumstantial evidence at least, of that being true. So imagine if you could boost your immune system, if my experience is even close to reality here, just by eating, I eat a lot of beef and eggs, a lot of eggs. Andrew says, I've lost 45 pounds on carnivore without cardio, just small dumbbell workouts in the morning, going to add some outside cardio when it warms up. And you feel better losing that, don't you? And so, yeah, hit the weights. There's all kinds of body. If you don't have a weight system and don't want to go to the gym, there's all kinds of body stuff you can do. Although lifting, well, you can get, heavy, get some bigger dumbbells or kettlebells, that kind of thing. But yeah, if you're losing fat, now you need to add muscle. It's so important, especially as men. Well, it's not any different from men or women, except the testosterone piece. Our testosterone decreases, our muscle mass decreases, and we got to keep the strength. Randy says, eat well and tweaking here and there after Whole30. Yeah, cool. Sana says, nourishing your body is such an underused tool. We don't get near as sick as those around us, mostly because we avoid sugar almost completely and don't eat much processed food. Yep, I think that has been established, that our food makes us sick, and insulin resistance is a problem, and our immune systems are weakened, and inflammation, all that. Corn syrup is poisoning Americans. They put it in everything. Yep. Which is great because I don't get any corn syrup in a steak. Sana says, that said, my health is not good, so variables, but whatever. Yeah, and there are other things, right? There are some things that at this point are probably outside our control. But what is clear is there's so much within our control if we'll have the self-discipline to eat better foods. And that leads me to the last thing in this thought is just AI research. If we get rid of bureaucracy and DEI and fraudulent studies that have taken over the published guidelines, AI research is going to help us discover so much more that will help us thrive and flourish. Terry says, Grok, the idea goes back to a famous 17th century experiment by Jean-Baptiste van Helmont. He planted a 5-pound willow sapling in 200 pounds of dried soil, watered it for 5 years, adding only water. Interesting. Tom DeLure has good information on YouTube about nutrition. Yeah, it's certainly available there. All right, last thing for flourishing here is just AI. I talk about it all the time. I've had some fun with OpenClaw this week. I couldn't do the live stream because I couldn't talk, but I did spend quite a bit of time getting OpenClaw, and it's wonderful and frustrating at the same time. It's not a plug and play kind of thing, and I'm learning. Excuse me. But I'm more convinced than ever, having worked. I've been using Grok a long time, as you know, but that's great for research and for asking questions. But for this to get to a place where we have agents, it's called agentic agents, who are we set them on a path and they are doing work for us while we're doing other things. I'm going to have to wrap this up because I'm coughing. It means I'm about done talking. Productivity is going to, just skyrocket and that kind of thing. And I mentioned the homeschooling mom. I think her name is Jessie. And I mentioned what she's been doing. She published some more stuff this week. I can't remember what I've told you already. She's the one that recorded her homeschooling video and then gave it to her OpenClaw agent and said, organize this and create categories and lesson plans and future and all that, which is just amazing. We homeschooled and this kind of technology would have just enhanced that greatly. And then did I share this with you about her YouTube? She basically used her OpenClaw agent to create a YouTube player. That's not quite what it is, but I'll just describe what it is. She says there's so much stuff on YouTube that is worth the time of her children. She wants her children to watch because there is a lot of great stuff on YouTube, right? Right? There's some good stuff on YouTube, right? But there's just so much that I certainly don't want my kids watching. And you've got the suggestions and stuff, and that so often leads you to a bad place. Well, she worked with OpenClaw to set a thing up where now her kids can turn on the television and it pulls up the playlist that mom sends videos to. And with a remote, they can pause, play, go forward and backward. That's it. So the screen is just the video, plus with the remote, play, pause, go to the next video, or go back to a previous video. And the only videos it shows are those collated on YouTube in a playlist put together by mom and dad. How cool is that? She just, instead of having to buy an app or subscribe to something, she used this AI, this OpenClaw, and created this so that now she has confidence. Her kids, whenever they're allowed to watch videos on YouTube, they go and she knows they will only watch what she and her husband decided are worth watching. That's just great stuff. And for me, I'm learning. You've already mentioned the transcript of the live stream for the partners that's helpful. That's all OpenClaw. Mine's named Merlin. Merlin does that, and I'm constantly looking for ways for Merlin to make me more productive and to make me more useful to others, and that's one way. And as more and more people, and there'll be out of the box agents, coming. And I think was it Anthropic, Claude? Somebody launched one yesterday that they're saying is going to kill OpenClaw. I don't think they're exactly doing the same thing, but there's going to be more and more of this down the road, and we're all going to be able to be more productive and useful in every area of life as that happens. And all of that says flourishing to me. So don't listen to all the naysayers and pessimists. Amy says she's telling Sana she tries to limit sugar with her kids. Yeah, I introduced my granddaughter to ice cream yesterday, but it's honey. It's ice cream for bears. Have you had that? So it's good and clean, but just a couple little bites. Grandpa's her favorite now. Interesting. Yep. All right. Very good. Well, I encourage you to be positive, eat well, and look forward to the rest of today, and then get up tomorrow and look forward to tomorrow and the next day and the next day. The Lord is so good, and he's doing so many great things in this world. And yes, there's forces of evil, and yes, there are people trying to destroy it, but Jesus is on the throne and he is building his kingdom. Let's pray and let's do our part to be useful, productive, and let's be joyful. This is the day the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. All right, have a great day, great weekend. We'll see you all on Monday when we get back to Matthew. God, grace and peace to you.